Story Chapter 16 Noureddin Ali and Bedreddin Hassan. Dear Commander of the Believers, once upon a time in Egypt there was a righteous, virtuous and very powerful emperor who made all his neighbors respect him and fear him. He loved the poor and protected the wise men he appointed to hold important positions in the court. The emperor's prime minister was a shrewd, wise, prudent man, well versed in calligraphy and all sciences. This important mandarin has two handsome sons, both of whom have many similarities to their father. The older brother's name is Shemseddin Muhammad and the younger brother's name is Noureddin Ali. In particular, you have many qualities that many people desire. The Prime Minister, the father of the two boys, had passed away. The king invited both brothers to return to the court and appointed both of them to the position of ordinary Prime Minister. "I deeply sympathize," he told the two of them, "about the loss that you are suffering. I also mourn your father as much as you do. To express that feeling, and I know that you always live together, unite and love each other, I bestowed upon you the same title. Children, please follow your father's example." The two new prime ministers thanked the emperor for his kindness, returned home, and took care of their father's grave. A month later, they left for the first time, and attended court for the first time, and from then on they were regularly present at court meetings. Every time the emperor went hunting, one of the two brothers was allowed to accompany him, and they took turns enjoying that honor. One day, after dinner, the two brothers talked and discussed many miscellaneous issues. That was before the day when the older brother went hunting with the emperor. The young man told him, "Honey, we are both unmarried and we live together in harmony. I suddenly had an idea. Let's get married one day, marry the two sisters we love. We'll choose a family that is suitable for us. What do you think about that idea?" "I see," Noureddin Ali replied, "it is very worthy of the friendship that binds us. Man, there's nothing better than that idea. As for me, I am ready to obey you." "Oh, that's not all," Shemseddin Muhammad continued, "the imagination goes even further. Suppose our wives all get pregnant on the first night of their wedding day and then they one day in labor. Your wife gives birth to a son and my wife gives birth to a daughter. When they reach adulthood, we will make them husband and wife." "Oh, that," exclaimed Noureddin Ali, "I must confess, that is a wonderful plan. That marriage made us even more closely bonded, and I wholeheartedly agree. But, brother," he added, "if that is the case, do you intend for my son to have a dowry for your daughter?" "That's of course," the older brother said. "I'm sure that, in addition to the usual procedures of establishing a wedlock, I'm sure you won't forget to give her the right name, at least 3,000 sequins and 3 plots of land. Fertile with 3 slaves. How can I agree to that?" The younger brother objected. "Are we not blood brothers and colleagues, the same dignitary? Besides, you and I, don't we know what is wrong and what is right? Are boys always more precious than girls? It's you who has to pay a large dowry for your daughter, right? As you can see, I am a person who specializes in taking advantage of other people's capital." Although Noureddin Ali spoke and laughed, the older brother, being stubborn, seemed insulted. "How unfortunate for your son," the older brother said angrily. "You dare to rate her higher than my daughter? I'm surprised that you have the audacity to think that your son is worthy of my daughter. It must be said that you are out of your mind to dare compare with me and say that we are colleagues. Listen here, "Tyrant, after those insolent words, I will never marry my daughter to your son, no matter how much wealth you give him." This laughable quarrel that occurred between two brothers over the marriage of their two unborn children took matters further. Shemseddin Muhammad was so angry that he threatened, "If I didn't have to accompany the emperor tomorrow, I would have told you. But when I return, I will let you know what happens to a younger brother who speaks impudently to his brother like you." Having finished speaking, he retreated to his own room, and the younger brother also returned to his room. Shemseddin Muhammad got up early the next morning and went to the palace, and from there went out with the emperor along the road above Caire, towards the pyramids. As for Noureddin Ali, he couldn't sleep all night, and after careful consideration, he found it difficult to live long with the brother who treated him so arrogantly. He made a decision in his mind, prepared a healthy mule, brought money, precious jewels and some food, and after telling his family that he was going to travel for a few days and that he wanted to go alone. So he set out. Once outside Caire, he traveled through the desert to the Arabian region. But his mule fell dead in the middle of the road, so he was forced to walk. Fortunately, there was a person in charge of communication duty going to Balsora to accompany him, sitting on the horse behind him. Arriving at Balsora, thanking his good friend, Noureddin Ali got off his horse and walked along the streets looking for a place to rest. At that moment, he saw an official with a large entourage coming. People on both sides of the road showed respect, moving aside to let the group pass. Noureddin also stopped like everyone else and knew that it was the Prime Minister of King Balsora who was inspecting the city to, with his presence, encourage the people to maintain order and security. This minister accidentally glanced at the young man and saw that his face was so pleasant to look at, he looked at him sympathetically. And because he went to inspect near him, he saw that he was dressed as a traveler, so he stopped and asked him who he was and where he came from. Sir Noureddin Ali replied, "I am an Egyptian, born in Caire, away from the country because of a dispute with a family member. I decided that I would travel around the world and would rather die somewhere than have to return." The Prime Minister was a respectable old man. Hearing the young man say that, he told him, "My son, you should put that idea aside. In this world there is only suffering, and do you know how much hardship you will have to endure while wandering like that? Well, follow me. Maybe I will make you forget the reason that forced you to leave your homeland." Noureddin Ali followed Prime Minister Balsora, who, through conversation, saw that the young man had many good qualities, so he fell in love with him. One day, in a private conversation, he told him, "My son, as you see, I am too old, I probably won't live much longer. God gave me an only daughter whose beauty is no less than your beauty. My child is now at marriageable age. Many high-ranking officials in this court have wanted to ask for their sons, but I have not yet agreed to accept anyone. As for you, I love you and are more worthy of being friends than all the others, so I am ready to accept you as my son-in-law. If you happily accept, I will tell the emperor so he knows, and I will ask him to let you succeed me as prime minister in this Balsora kingdom. At the same time, because my old age requires rest and relaxation, I not only leave you all my assets but also the authority to govern and handle the kingdom's public affairs." The vizier Balsora, full of mercy and kindness, had not yet finished speaking when Noureddin Ali quickly knelt down at his feet, expressing joy and deep gratitude. ready to do anything to help the old vizier. This age is especially gratifying. So he summoned all the main officials in the Prime Minister's palace, ordered them to decorate the hall and hold a banquet. Then he sent invitations to all the courtiers and nobles in the city who condescended to come to the palace. When everyone had gathered, and because he knew Noureddin Ali's identity clearly, he found it appropriate to let everyone know the situation, so as not to upset those who had previously refused to marry him. "Close," he said to everyone. "Gentlemen, I am happy and pleased to tell you something that I have kept secret until today. I have a younger brother who is the Prime Minister of the country of Egypt, and I have the honor of being the Prime Minister of this kingdom. My uncle only had one son and did not want to get married in the Egyptian court, so he sent him to me to marry my daughter so that their two families would be even closer. The son, my uncle's son, my nephew that I accepted as my son-in-law, is the young man you see here. I would like to respectfully introduce to you. I hope that you will take pity on me and please attend my wedding that I have decided to hold today." None of the officials found it unjust to choose their own nephew as their son-in-law over the other groups who wanted to propose, so they all congratulated the marriage in unison. They were all willing to stand as witnesses for the wedding and wished the Prime Minister God would bless him with a long life to see the results of this beautiful and happy marriage. At this point, Scheherazade saw that it was dawning, so she stopped and continued the story the next night. "Oh, Your Majesty," she said. Prime Minister Giafar continued the unfinished story to the emperor. The officials gathered at Prime Minister Balsora's palace. He seemed extremely happy about his daughter's marriage to Noureddin Ali. They all then sat at the table, ate, drank, and chatted for a long time. After the meal, they ate jams and fruit, which, according to custom, each person took home as much or as little as he wanted. The praetors entered with the marriage papers in hand. The principal authorities signed them one by one, and then they all said goodbye and left. When there were only people left in the house, the vizier gave responsibility to the designated servants, took the groom to the bath, where Noureddin Ali was changed into clean new clothes along with many other things. He returned to meet the Prime Minister in a luxurious and fragrant outfit, making his father-in-law extremely happy when he saw the handsome face of his new son-in-law. He told him to sit down next to him. Said, "You have told me who you are and your position. In the Egyptian court, you also told me that because of a conflict with your brother, you had to leave the country. I ask you to fully confide in me and tell me the reason why your brothers quarreled. Now, trust me completely and don't hide anything from me." Noureddin Ali told him all the details of the disagreement between the two brothers. The Prime Minister couldn't help but laugh when he finished hearing the story. "That is truly," he said, "the strangest thing in the world. Is it possible, my child, that the argument became fierce just because of an imaginary marriage? I feel dissatisfied that you are at odds with your brother just because of a nonsense story. However, I also see that your brother was wrong in that he was too proud to think that you were just joking and instead accused you of being insolent. On the other hand, I also have to thank God that because of the disagreement between the two brothers, I have a son-in-law like you." But the old man continued, "It's late at night, you should go rest. Go, my son, your wife is waiting for you. Tomorrow I will take you to the emperor's throne. I believe he will receive you in a way that will satisfy both of us." Noureddin Ali said goodbye to his father-in-law and went to his own room with his wife. There is a special thing, Prime Minister Ja'far continued, that on the same day Noureddin Ali's wedding took place in Balsora, Shamseddin Muhammad, his brother, was hunting with the Egyptian emperor and only returned after a month for the king's sake. He was so engrossed in the hunt that he was absent from court during that time. When he returned, he immediately went to Noureddin Ali's house and was very surprised to learn that his brother, using the excuse of going on a trip for a few days, rode a mule to coincide with the emperor's hunting day, and from that day disappeared. He also did not expect that his harsh words would be the cause of his brother's alienation. He sent a messenger through Damascus and all the way to Aleppo. But at this time Noureddin was in Balsora, so how could he find him? When the failed courier returned, Shamseddin Muhammad planned to send him to continue looking elsewhere, but in the meantime, he decided to get married first. He married the daughter of one of the most prestigious officials in the city of Caire, and on the same day as his younger brother married the daughter of Prime Minister Balsora. But that's not all. Ja'far continued, O ruler of the faithful, here's something even more strange. 9 months later, Shamseddin Muhammad's wife gave birth to a daughter in Caire, and on the same day Noureddin's wife gave birth to him in Balsora a son named Bedreddin Hassan. Prime Minister Balsora organized a grand celebration to welcome his grandson. Then, to show his love for his precious son-in-law, he went to the emperor's palace and earnestly begged him to bless Noureddin Ali with the grace to succeed him so that he could say before he closed his eyes he could see his son-in-law as king. General takes his place. The emperor was pleased the day he saw the young man in front of him after the wedding, and after hearing many good things about him, he approved the minister's request with all the praise he could wish for. The king let him immediately wear the prime minister's uniform in front of him. The father-in-law's joy was multiplied when the next day he saw his son-in-law chairing a meeting in his place and running all the affairs of a prime minister. Noureddin Ali knew his job well, as he had done it all his life. He continued to return later, attending meetings that his father-in-law could not attend because of old age. This kind old prime minister passed away 4 years after his daughter's wedding, satisfied that he had a successor who would bring glory to the entire family. Noureddin Ali held a solemn funeral for his father-in-law with all his love and deep gratitude. Soon his son Bedreddin Hassan turned 7 years old. He placed his son in the hands of a virtuous teacher who taught him the discipline worthy of his lineage. He saw in this child a sharp intelligence that could absorb all teachings. Scheherazade was about to continue, but seeing that it was already dawn, she stopped. The next night, she continued, to the Emperor of the Indian nation as follows. Oh, Your Majesty. Prime Minister Ja'far continued to tell the story to the Emperor. 2 years later he said Bedreddin Hassan was taught to read fluently by the teacher, and was able to read well. Memorized the Quran. Noureddin Ali, his father, invited other teachers to train him until he was 12 years old, when Bedreddin Hassan learned all the teacher's words. By this time, his face had taken on a shape that made everyone who saw him fell in love and admiration. Up until this point, Noureddin Ali only thought of one thing: to encourage his son to grind the history books and not show him off in society. He took him to the palace to be so that he could have the honor of paying homage to the emperor, whom he had favored with favor. The mandarins who met him on the street all admired his handsome appearance and often exclaimed in surprise and congratulations. He was speechless. Because his father intended to train him to be fully capable to one day replace him, he did not hesitate to force him to go deeper into difficult matters so that he could get used to heavy public duties early. He did not hesitate to do anything to help his beloved son progress quickly, and when he began to enjoy the fruits of his hard work, he suddenly fell ill and died. He felt that his day was not far away. Therefore, there was nothing left to regret. He decided to leave the world like a true Muslim. In this precious moment he did not forget his beloved son Bedreddin. He called him over and instructed, "My son? I see clearly that in this world no one can avoid death. Only the afterlife, where I am about to go, is eternal. From now on, you must start putting yourself in the middle of making arrangements like I am right now. Be prepared to walk through this journey with no regrets in your heart and a peaceful conscience because you have fulfilled your responsibilities as a Muslim as well as a completely honest citizen. In terms of religion, through teachers and books, I have fully understood the religion of being a human being, to be a righteous person. I will tell you some teachings that you should try to put into practice. Because it is absolutely necessary to know yourself and you will not be able to do that without knowing clearly who I am. Then I will tell you. I was born in Egypt," he continued. "My father, your grandfather, was the prime minister of the king of the kingdom. I myself also had the honor of being one of the prime ministers of this king along with your brother, your uncle, I am sure is still alive and his name is Shemseddin Muhammad. I was forced to break up with your uncle and come to this kingdom where I reached the position that I still hold until now. But you will understand all these events more clearly in a notebook that I will give you." At the same time, Noureddin Ali took out the notebook he wrote with his own hand, which he always carried with him, and gave it to Bedreddin Hassan. "Take it," he told you, "and when you have free time, take it out and read it. You will see in it many other events, besides the day I got married and the day you were born. Those are the situations that can happen." Bedreddin Hassan, deeply moved to see his father in a weak and tired state, was moved by his advice and took the notebook with tears streaming down his face. He promised his father to always remember his teachings. During that time, Noureddin Ali suffered a bout of weakness and thought he was about to breathe his last breath. But then he returned and gently told his son, "My son?" He said, "The first life motto that I impart to you is not to be gullible. To have a solid and secure life, put complete trust in yourself and avoid any easy relationships. The second motto is not to use violence against anyone because in this case, everyone will rebel against you. You must consider the world as a creditor to whom you must always be gentle, sympathetic and generous. The third motto is not to open your mouth to insults. There is a good proverb to remember: people will escape danger when they know how to keep quiet. Especially in this situation you have to put it into practice. You probably already know that on this topic one of our poets said, "Silence is an ornament and protects life, should not be like a thunderstorm that destroys everything when you open your mouth." People never have to regret being silent, on the contrary, they always have to be sad and angry because they spoke without thinking carefully. The fourth motto is not to drink alcohol. Alcohol is the cause of all bad habits. The fifth motto is to save money. If you are not wasteful, it will avoid all difficulties for you. However, you should not be too stingy. Spending money appropriately and at the right time, on par with your ability, will make you have many close friends. But if on the contrary, you are incredibly rich but spend wastefully and throw money out the window, then everyone will stay away. Avoid and abandon that child. Noureddin Ali, until the last minute of his life, constantly advised his children about good things. When he closed his eyes, his funeral was solemn and crowded. At this point, Scheherazade said, "It was dawn." She stopped talking and saved the next part for the next night. The Queen of the Indian Kingdom was awakened at the usual time by her younger sister Dinarzade. She spoke and said to Shahryar, "Your Majesty, this emperor was absorbed in listening to Prime Minister Giafar continue the story. So Noureddin Ali was buried with dignity befitting his position. Bedreddin Hassan of Balsora, so called because he was born in this city, was deeply saddened by the loss of a beloved father. According to custom, mourning lasted for 1 month, but he stayed at home crying for 2 months without going anywhere and did not go to court to perform his duties as a servant to King Balsora. The king was very dissatisfied with his delay and considered it a sign of contempt for the court and himself, so he could not help but feel angry. In a fit of anger, the king called the new prime minister, because he had chosen a replacement when he heard the news of Noureddin Ali's death, and ordered him to go to the late prime minister's house and confiscate all his assets and land. Belongings. Did not leave anything for Hassan but also ordered his arrest. The new prime minister, along with a large number of palace guards, praetors and other officials, loudly went to carry out their mission. Fortunately, one of Bedreddin Hassan's slaves who happened to be in the crowd heard the vizier's intentions and quickly ran forward and reported the news to his master. He saw Hassan sitting in the vestibule of the house, sadly missing his father. He ran in, panting, hugged his legs, and after kissing the hem of his shirt, he said, "Please hide now. Must escape quickly. What's up?" Hassan raised his head and asked, "What news do you bring me?" "Sir," he replied, "we shouldn't waste any more time. The emperor was in a terrible rage towards you and sent someone to confiscate everything you had and even arrest you." The tip of the loyal slave who loved his master very much made him extremely stunned. "So I can't," he said, "have any time to go into the house and take some money and some pearls?" "Impossible, sir," said the slave. "The vizier will be here in a moment. Please go now, run away quickly." Bedreddin Hassan quickly stood up, put on his sandals, lifted a piece of his shirt to cover his head and face, and quickly ran outside, not knowing which direction to go to escape the threatening danger. His first thought was to quickly escape the city. He ran all the way to the public cemetery and, because night was approaching, he decided to stay at his father's tomb for the night. It is a massive dome-shaped structure that Noureddin Ali built during his time. But on the way to the tomb, he met a very rich Jew who worked as a merchant and loan shark. He came from a place with business to attend to and was currently on his way back to the city. This Jew recognized Bedreddin, stopped walking and greeted him very politely. At this point, it was just dawn. Scheherazade stopped and continued the next night. Oh, Your Majesty," she said. The emperor he listened attentively as Prime Minister Glafir continued as follows. The Jew named Isaac, after greeting Bedreddin Hassan and kissing his hand, said, "Sir, "May I take the liberty to ask where you are going at this hour?" It seems he was alone and in a rather emotional mood. "Did something make you sad?" "Yes," Bedreddin replied. "Just now in my sleep I saw my father appear. He glared at me, seemingly very upset. Angry about something. I woke up startled and very scared, so I rushed here to pray on your grave." Sir, the Jews did not know why Hassan left the city, and continued, "The late Prime Minister, who is also the Lord in my mind, has filled many ships with goods that are currently at sea. These cargo ships are all under your ownership. So please, sir, allow me the exclusive right to subcontract. I have enough money to buy all of those goods back. If you agree, I will accept the first ship that is about to arrive safely and will immediately give you about 1,000 sequins. I have the money with me and am ready to advance it." Bedreddin Hassan, in that situation, driven from his home, stripped of everything he had in the world, saw the Jewish proposal as a blessing from heaven. He accepted with rare joy. "Sir," the Jew asked him, "so you agree to let me have the first shipment on one of your ships that is about to arrive for 1,000 sequins?" "Yes, I sold you that shipment for 1,000 sequins," Bedreddin Hassan replied. It was a matter of agreement. Immediately, the Jewish merchant placed a bag of 1,000 sequins in his hand and asked him to count it. But Bedreddin said there was no need because he believed in his honesty. "If so," said the Jewish merchant, "please write a word about our recent purchase." So saying, he pulled out from his belt a writing desk, a sharpened bamboo stick to make a pen, gave him a piece of paper from a briefcase, and while he held the inkwell, Bedreddin wrote the words next on the piece of paper. "Certificate. Bedreddin Hassan of Balsora sold to the Jewish merchant Isaac the entire cargo of the first ship to arrive at this port for the payment of 1,000 sequins received in full. Signed, Bedreddin Hassan of Balsora." After writing, he gave it to the Jew, who put it in his briefcase and asked to leave. While Isaac followed the road leading into the city, Bedreddin Hassan continued to go to the grave of his father, Noureddin Ali. Arriving there, he knelt down, face down on the ground, eyes filled with tears, mouth lamenting his suffering. "Alas!" he groaned, "unlucky Bedreddin, what will become of you? Where can you find a hiding place to avoid the ignorant king who is mistreating you? Is the sadness of losing a beloved father not enough? Is it possible that fate will force us to suffer a new disaster after this sadness and regret?" He pondered for a long time in this state. But in the end, he stood up and leaned his head against his father's gravestone, feeling the pain come back stronger than before. He kept sighing and complaining until he was exhausted and then removed his head from the gravestone he was lying on. Sidewalks and sidewalks. The soul wandered for a while, then a god often came to hide in this cemetery during the day, and at night he often flew to visit places as usual. Suddenly he saw a young man in Noureddin Ali's tomb. Then walked in. Because the boy was lying on his back, the god was stunned, his eyes dilated because of his handsome appearance. The rising sun did not allow Scheherazade to continue telling the story tonight. But the next night, at the usual time, she continued to tell. When that god Prime Minister Giafar looked intently at Bedreddin Hassan, and said to himself, "Just look at the beauty of living beings. Hey, maybe this is an angel of paradise that God sent down to set the whole world on fire because of it." Finally, after looking closely, the angel flew up very high in the air. His love happened to meet a fairy. They both greeted each other. Then the god said, "Please come with me to the cemetery, where I reside. I will show you a rare beauty that you will surely admire." Admired as much as I was. The fairy agreed, and in a moment, they were inside the tomb. "How is it, ma'am?" the god pointed at Bedreddin Hassan. "Have you ever seen such a handsome young man? And more beautiful than this one?" The fairy looked at Bedreddin with attention and then turned to the god. "I confess," she said, "that it is beautiful. But I also saw it just now in Kalra. This is even more wonderful. If you want to listen, I'll tell you. If so, you make me very happy. But please know that I only saw it from afar. You probably know that the Egyptian emperor had a vizier named Shamseddin Muhammad, who had a daughter in her 20s. She was the most beautiful and perfect girl that no one had ever heard of. The emperor heard rumors about the girl, summoned her father's prime minister and told him, "I heard that your family has a daughter of marriageable age. I want to marry her. Will you agree to marry me?" "Me?" The prime minister was surprised by that proposal, a bit confused, but not dazzled. If it had been anyone else, they would have been overjoyed and hastily accepted, but he answered very calmly but firmly, "Your Majesty, I consider myself unworthy of your favor, and I beg your pardon. He is generous and forgives me if I cannot please him. Your Majesty probably already knows that I have a younger brother, Noureddin Ali, who, like me, has the honor of being one of his prime ministers. We had a disagreement between us, and that was the reason for his sudden disappearance, and since then I haven't had any news. 4 days ago, I heard the news that he had passed away in Balsora. In his position as prime minister of that country's kingdom, my brother left behind a son. Previously, we had made a commitment to marry each other. I'm sure my sister died with the intention of carrying out that marriage. Therefore, on my part, I want to keep my promise and earnestly ask the king for permission to do so. Our court has many high-ranking mandarins who also have daughters like me, and you have no shortage of places to extend your favors." The Egyptian emperor was extremely angry with his prime minister, Shamseddin Muhammad. Scheherazade stopped speaking because the morning light was peeking out from behind the curtain. The next night, she continued the story, telling the Indian emperor the same words that Prime Minister Ja'far told Emperor Harun al-Rashid. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.